Namaste. Welcome to Accomplished Women series by Thought Habitat Speaks. So far, we have interviewed a few academicians and a few women entrepreneurs. But today, we have the perfect combination of academics and entrepreneurship together. So, these two women with us today are really redefining the way our education system works. They tend to empower students to showcase their unique X factor, thereby allowing academic committees and admission officers to gain an extra insight into every child's personality. They wish to give every student an equal and unbiased opportunity to seize their dreams and succeed. Yes, success is not about marks, it is not about CAT scores, GMAT scores, and it is not about writing an essay, not about writing a book, not about filling application forms, not about getting awards, but there is something. Each one of us have an X factor, and bringing out that X factor with much more confidence really matters. And that is what Katherine Mehta and Kavitta Bedi of Xtraview have been demonstrating. So without much delay, let us welcome them. Katherine and Kavitta, welcome to the show. And it is really way back in my school days, I've been thinking of the same, why are people judging me based on my marks? Because I've been a below average student in school. And people have been judging me based on my marks. And that really reflected on my confidence levels. And I had a very long journey since then. And there are many other people like me, many other students like me who were really struggling that time. But now I'm sure with Xtraview, students these days are really gifted, and I'm sure they will really grow up with much more confidence, not overconfidence. They will grow up with much more confidence. They would believe in their abilities, and I'm sure success is not going to be far away from them.
Thank you so much for having us here. We're truly excited and honored to be featured on this platform.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Arvind. We're really, really looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah. So I'm jumping onto my questions, Devi.
Sure.
So in both of your careers, Katherine and Kavitta, so what was the trigger point that really made you think, okay, something has to be done? Was there such a trigger point that paved way for Xtraview?
Yes, actually, it was very personal. So my own child went through the college admissions process 2 years ago, and she was one of those who is a brilliant communicator, and so that allowed her to succeed fairly easily. And I, as a keen observer, saw a lot of students with maybe higher marks, more accomplished resumes, a trajectory that could have been portrayed in a better fashion, struggle just because they were unable to communicate the X factor that they had or the skill set that they could bring to the college or university or internship, etc. And that got me thinking that this really is a need that needs to be fulfilled. Students need to have a platform where they can voice who they really are. And the application forms are important, the grades are important. I'm not going to say that, let's all stop studying and just look at doing this interview. I think all of those accomplishments, all of those hard work is very, very important. It's crucial, it's key. But how do you voice what is most important amongst that plethora of importance that a student achieves? And that's how Xtraview got started. And I'm sure Katherine has her own input into that as well.
Yes, yeah. So looking at this problem, I was also sort of seeing it from the other side of the table. For the past decade, I'd been working in the higher education space in India. So working both with students as they were preparing their applications for universities, but also in touch with the admissions officers who were reviewing those applications. So as Kavitta said, there was sort of this need that students would feel like I'm more than my marks, I'm more than what's just coming through on my application form or CV, but I don't know how to put that out there. And similarly, admissions officers would say, we wish we could learn more about this student, or we could sort of get insight into who they are, how they communicate, what their story really is, because right now on paper, it's all coming across sort of flat. And so that's where I was sort of meeting these two needs of both the students, their desire to express who they are, but also admissions officers really wanting to understand that information and find it valuable. And as we continued, as we started to pursue this idea, we discovered that the market is actually much larger than we had originally envisioned. So we had started with thinking it was just going to be this partnership for universities, but discovered that employers even have the same need, that programs for younger students have the same need. And so as a result, our product offerings and our focus has continued to expand, which has been really exciting.
And also to add to this, if we look at what is happening with the education system, look at the results. The number of children who are fighting for that one seat, all scoring 99%. Or look at the employability factor of, thousands and thousands of students coming out into a very tough economic environment. So now is the need for students or people just starting their careers also to talk about what makes them different, why they are the best fit. And not just that, it gives insight into their personalities, which allows universities, colleges, internship companies, hiring managers to assess, go that little bit deeper than just marks and your CVs.
No, that's really pretty interesting to know. And also I'm really happy to know and note in one way, Katherine, that the academic officers are really demanding to know something beyond the marks. So far what I've noted is everywhere people look at the marks, look at your degrees, and then they say okay, this person is qualified, this person is not qualified because he or she doesn't have this qualification. But that in itself says that the education ecosystem in the country is changing. Yeah.
It is not only that, there is push from the top. You see, now our government policies are talking about skill building. Our government policies are talking about providing students with opportunities that allows them things beyond their curriculum. So it is a change, but it's a very slow process. It's not all hunky-dory. We have our challenges, we have our struggles, and it's going to take some time, but we like to believe that we're the pioneers in sort of taking a step in the right direction.
Yeah, every 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step every time. And it is all those one step that builds up slowly in due. Yeah. And my next question to both of you again. There would have been a challenge, right? So you conceptualize this idea of Xtraview, but you would have received a lot of challenges when it comes to ideation or conceptualizing the ideas, or even executing the ideas and simulating the ideas. You would have had a lot of challenges. Would you both like to define such?
Sure. So I'll take this one first. I think that one of the greatest challenges, so we launched last year. We launched in the middle of the pandemic. And so at that point, people were just thinking about what they needed to do to sort of get through the day. And here we are trying to say we want to revolutionize the education system. And so that was, to sort of get an audience, to get people to really start to, talk to us to, in all seriousness about it was a challenge just because of the nature of timing of the launch. But Interestingly, the pandemic has also created a much wider acceptance of sort of the, the virtual platforms on which we're working. The interviews that we do all take place over digital platforms, because that means that we're open to a much wider audience, that people can be doing this from anywhere in the world, that there aren't the limitations of needing to travel. It's much easier to coordinate logistically. And so we found that there's also been a greater acceptance of that idea, that yes, this work can happen, it can happen really effectively online. So I think it's been both a challenge, but it's also opened up some doors for us. Kavitta, any other thoughts that you have?
Well, there are challenges in every startup every single day, I would say. Uh, and we all learn how to manage those and navigate our way through them. Uh, so challenges, yes, like Katherine said, starting something which is a new idea in the middle of what we're all going through. But I think it taught us as entrepreneurs to be very quick on our feet, to learn how to pivot to market demands quickly, and how we can you start from point A, but don't be afraid of walking that journey that takes you, PQRST, wherever it takes you. So an example of this was when we started talking to institutions, and they said, it's all very well to look at students who are incoming, but what about you start training students who are outgoing into the market? So one of the things that is a big challenge that we've learned is that students who are completing even master's level education are not employable in the true sense, because they don't have real world skills, for lack of better sort of word. And today, the two things that you need to succeed, no matter what you're doing, is communication and collaboration. And you will agree that, good collaboration is only possible with effective communication. And how does this happen if children don't even understand what is communication, or how do they put themselves forward? So that led us to then creating a program called Extra Prep, which we never thought that in year one of launching a new product, we'll launch yet another new product. And Extra Prep is actually a course that teaches you how to learn to present the best version of yourself. So there are a lot of public speaking platforms, personality development courses. But this one need of going with what you have and then being able to put it out there in the best way possible. This is a training that nobody is giving you. And this is really the need of the hour. And that's how we launched, so that was a challenge, like Katherine said, but also very exciting, because now we have two products in the market. We have Xtraview, which is the digital platform, and we have Extra Prep, which is the learning course. So yes, lots of challenges, but like we said, one day at a time.
Yeah, so by 2021 and 22, we would expect two more new things, two more new offerings from Xtraview, possibly. Yeah.
Either that, or these two grow like doubly exponentially.
Yeah. So Kavitta, you were mentioning about employability and your offerings to improve employability with Xtraview, right? So as an entrepreneur, you understand the factor of employability very much, right? So even I would relate it to my example as well. When I started as an equity correspondent, I was an engineering grad, but equity correspondent wasn't really something, it is completely contrast to what I learned in college. It is out of interest I came out and I started as an equity correspondent. And I had a lot of learnings in the next 2 months when I began my work. It was all like I was learning top to bottom everything about stock market. So what all stock markets do and how does it function and how does it work. But I would say in the initial months, the company really had to put in a lot of effort to train me so that I understand. Yeah, but again, that is a very time consuming process wherein the company is wasting a resource and they're not able to bank upon the resource completely. So And again, I have seen startups that are saying that we bridge the gap between employability and your requirement, right? So how is Xtraview bridging that gap? Like, can we say taking up a course from Xtraview, as you mentioned, the offerings that you do for employability, can we say that a fresher would come into a company with a complete understanding of the culture, complete understanding of the requirements, and a complete understanding of the business scenario out there?
So I would say to that, we are a step before. First of all, you need to get a foot into the door in that company. And a lot of people struggle with that. So, for example, one of the things we coach you on is what your personal narrative should be. How do you learn to do an elevator pitch for different situations, right? Now, the moment you learn all of that about yourself, then you just become more receptive to the learning process that you will be exposed to. If I struggle to present, I've done, so let's take your example, sorry. You obviously did something right to come from an engineering background and go into a completely different field. So you were able to communicate your passion, you were able to communicate your strengths, you were able to communicate why they should spend that time investing in you to teach you, right? But a lot of people do not have that skill set. And they don't even understand the need to have that skill set. So that's where Xtraview comes in. That how do you make yourself more employable from being able to get yourself to communicate how you're the right fit, how you're the most irresistible person out of the 100 resumes that have come in. So that's the skill we build, we're not really going into organizations and saying we'll train students who come in to fit your roles. But what we're saying is we will help you choose the best students who can come in and then you can work with to train yourself.
That's really wonderful. And Katherine, so you're an educator, so you can answer this question better. There is always this gap. If we go down south, the communicative competence, when I say down south, it is in the southern districts of Tamil Nadu, especially, because I have seen that. My mother, she's an academician, and she has the pedigree of making rural students talk in English, really. That way, what I have seen is, it is not even down south. We need not go down south to Tamil Nadu. Even in the urban pockets of Chennai, we have seen government school students who come from a rural background, and they study in Tamil medium till 12th standard, and then they come into college and they see a book written by a foreign author which is completely alien to them, and they are not able to follow the subjects. But yes, yet some of the professors do manage to help them a little bit in learning forward. But again, when they are asked to communicate, they really stumble upon. I mean, they are not able to do it. So as an educator, what are the modules that you have designed specifically in Xtraview to address those challenges?
Sure, sure. And it's interesting that you ask because, right, as we've continued to speak to different people in the different, organizations that we're working with, we are seeing that depending on the market, there's a very different need. That some of it is really sort of preliminary English communication skills and sort of building those building blocks of communication, building that foundation. So depending on, whereas for some people it's much more, if they already have those skills in hand, then it's more about beginning to get into the nuances of how do you effectively use language, how do you use rhetorical devices, things like that. So obviously for someone who's starting at the very beginning, whether it's a young student, whether it's someone who's had a little exposure to English communication, it doesn't make sense to start to talk to them about using alliteration and using metaphors and similes, because at that point, it will be totally over their head. So instead, when we're starting at the very basics, we are starting with things like fluency, pace of speech. We have a few modules where we've actually broken it down in terms of basic vocabulary usage, the linguistic aspect of speaking. We don't speak about it in linguistic terms, but we as educators know that it's linguistic. We talk about sort of the physical skills of communication. So we've broken it down into sort of the cognitive skills as well. So what they need to understand in terms of critical reading, critical listening, in terms of their ability to respond. So we've broken it down in that way, but then depending again on the audience, sometimes it's very simple and basic exercises within just fluency, pace, tone, word choice that we're working on. The fantastic thing about language and communication is that it is cumulative. It builds over time, like so many skills. So when someone has that foundation, then you move up to the next level where you're beginning to talk more about, gestures and body language and talking about word choice, things like that. This is more effective than using that. And then it continues to build so that, there's so much to learn and so much to teach.
Yeah, because learning is always an ocean. You may not really know how much you've learned. So, you have to continue learning forever. That's
Exactly. No,
really
and even
interesting.
Kavitta and I, in creating this, we learn new things every day. We're also constantly learning and realizing what we who have been working on this and developing modules, even discovering new things as well. Then we keep just adding that in and incorporating it in various ways.
So going back to an earlier question of challenges in pivoting, we now have curriculum for a child as young as 9, going up to someone who's finishing their post-graduation and is ready to be employed, to final year students of universities, to high school students applying for summer programs. So it's like Katherine said, we're constantly learning, we're loving the learning, and we hope that students who are engaging with us, they too get opportunities to learn. And Alvin, here I'd like to also share one more thing. It's not just about communication. I think we want to bridge the gap to get students opportunities that allow them to excel. So one of the things that we've just finished, we tied up with a company that brings in the Harvard the Harvard summer program to India. And we ran this program all across the country, where we wrote to 143 schools across India. And we asked them to nominate 3 students that they think would be a perfect fit to win the YLC, the Young Leaders Conference that is happening in June. And we worked with our partners to deliver it as a scholarship to 2 students. So these students across the country, they sent in video recordings, and then they were selected, and then they went through the extra prep program. They did the Xtraview interview, and then those interviews were shared along with their written applications. And then those were submitted to the Big Red Group, who has selected and offered 2 full scholarships to students, a girl from Chandigarh and a boy from Delhi. And so, this was a huge opportunity. It's an expensive program, but it allows mentorship from one of the finest education institutions. And it's a year-long mentorship for the student. So, our endeavor is that we use our skills to provide opportunities for students that really allows them to sort of excel, shine, and, chase all their dreams.
That is really interesting, because when I was a student, I really didn't have this opportunity of attending the Young Learners Conference, or I didn't have the opportunity to get the Harvard summer internship, fellowship, and everything. That's pretty interesting. And yeah, as I said before, students today are really gifted with all these plethora of choices in the market. Yeah. And my next question is, Kavitta, Xtraview caters to almost everyone. You're catering to high school students and college students. And also, as you mentioned, you tied up with a company, with a corporate, right? And also, you have some tie-ups with institutions and all, right? So, how do you bring that balance? As you mentioned, you have offerings for a kindergarten. I mean, I cannot say kindergarten. You have offerings for a primary student to a postgraduate degree holder, right? So how do you bring in that balance between the two? Like, how do you ensure that all these are specifically crafted for each one?
So, we've not yet reached the stage of balance. We're hungry, we're a startup, and we love chasing after every opportunity that we get. And I think it's the passion for us to grow, to take Xtraview and Extra Prep to the next level. That we haven't even started thinking about balance, to be honest. But that has led us, to push ourselves, and that has led us to, like Katherine said, constantly learn, constantly pivot, constantly be agile, and we are very open to new opportunities. So one very exciting thing that has come up, and we're constantly doing new things. So we've just tied up with this huge learning platform, and we're now going to be curating video content for them that children can learn asynchronously, and that's going to be combined with live classes with Katherine and myself, because what you can learn when you're actually interacting with a student, where they're open to asking you questions, where you can clear their doubts straight away. I think no amount of technology is ever going to be able to replicate that. But yes, there is a need to reach larger numbers to make this wider. And so now we're happily recording learning videos, something that we have never done before. So I think we're very far away from the stage of balance yet. We're hungry, we're willing to learn, we're willing to do different things, and we're raring to grow.
Yeah, with Xtraview and a country like India, you're really sitting on the top of a gold mine. So the more you dig, the more you get. So that is going to be a long, long journey for you both. And you'll end up learning more. And who knows, you would even create a software on your own in due course.
Who knows?
Yeah. So one last question, Kavitta and Katherine. So you started Xtraview in 2019. Yeah. And your daughter was your inspiration, right, Kavitta? So your daughter was your inspiration. And for Katherine, it's been the inspiration of what she's been learning from the academic officers and everyone. So going forward, what's the roadmap? So do we expect to see you making something beyond learning videos?
So I don't know if beyond learning videos, who knows, maybe. But what I do know for sure is that right now, while we focus largely on the Indian market, this is an international need. And again, I know this in sort of the experience of discussing with international admissions officers. And so there's nothing stopping us from expanding this service to other countries, to international students, to international universities. So that's one that's on sort of the immediate horizon for us, to begin to explore those markets outside of India as well. And there's, again, like you're saying, we're sort of sitting on top of a gold mine. And as we continue to dig, just more and more that keeps to emerge, not only within India, but even globally.
Yeah.
And also, I think here I would like to add to what Katherine has said. So Xtraview is not just a platform. What we do offer students is the chance to do a real life interview that is recorded exactly the way this conversation is happening. And that interview recording is shared back with the student with assessment and feedback. So there is constant improvement that a student can do, looking at themselves, looking at how they've answered a question, what the feedback has been, how they can improve it, how they can do better at it. And I think it's important to also say that we've got some great people who are, really industry leaders in their own rights, who have agreed to come on board and give their time in supporting students. So the interviews are not conducted by just Katherine and myself. We have a whole set of interviewers on our platform from various fields who take the time out to do these interviews. And why we believe that is key, and that's what makes Xtraview different, is learning is good, but unless you get an opportunity to practice your learning and do it in the real world, in a real scenario, that's when you get the great confidence in your own self. And So I think at this moment, we hope to get more people on board. In fact, so I think that's the uniqueness of our platform.
No, that's really great. You know, I've come across entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs specifically from footwear industry, and one who's a liquor baron, being a woman still, and she is not worried about the cliches that exist in the market. And then, as I told you, we interviewed two academicians who are really redefining the rural education space. You know, they've been the dean. One has been the dean of Mother Teresa Women's University in Kodaikanal, and one has been the former vice chancellor of Gandhigram Rural University in Dindakal, that is Tamil Nadu. You know, and after all that, we've been interviewing a lot of women entrepreneurs who are in niche segments in the market. And interviewing all such people, I am again getting more and more inspired to do more. And I wish you both all the best in all your future endeavors. And I wish to see Xtraview as a billion-dollar startup soon with all the efforts that you both are taking.
Thank you so much. You can see us smiling from ear to ear on that one.
Absolutely. So all the best. So thank you viewers for watching. So keep watching the space for more and more exciting videos. Thank you.
Thank you.